Hello again. We are in the third day of Interleague and continuing our panels with very important informations. So we are getting together with our precious guests. So the next topic is maximizing sponsorship opportunities in sports media. And here are our guests are Igor Kretsan, Media Director in Confidential, please. Our next guest is Maxim Skrivonic, President of Lithuanian Football Versliga. And our moderator is going to be Emmanuel Roshu, Content Manager in Play Sports. The stage is yours.
Thank you. I'm trying to make a loud thing so that everyone who is having a coffee or a cigarette will decide to join us for this nice panel. Yes, my name is Igor Kretsan, and if we were in a classroom, I would invite everyone to come closer just because there are so few of you. I'm in a good attendance on the standards of Latvian Football League,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk today about a solid topic, which is, as you can see, maximizing sponsorship opportunities and so on and so forth. It's a wide one, and at the same time a very specific one. But I would like to start with a different thing. I believe that for many of you we're quite unknown so far, so we'd better present ourselves, and then I would like to keep the conversation more like a conversation rather than me asking you questions just because, you know, it's interesting to learn something every time we speak in those circumstances or any other. So for your understanding, and my name is Igor Kretsan, and I've been working in sports for over 17 years now, mostly specializing in media and communications, and worked at several international major events like Olympics and European and World Cups, and then worked for the football clubs, a few to mention: Zenit St. Petersburg, Bayern Munich, and their US headquarters in New York, and currently doing some private consultancy at the intersection of creative management, brand management in sports and stuff like that. So this has something to do with maximizing sponsorship opportunities, if you may. And along with me here, we have, first of all, Mr. President, Maxim Skrivonic, coming from Riga, Latvia. So Maxim.
Thank you, Igor. Thank you for having me at this wonderful event. I'm happy to contribute to this nice conversation and everything that we heard during the last 2.5 days. And I think it's going to be also an interesting panel discussion about maximizing resources for the game we all love. So just to present myself, for the last 6 years, I've been the president of the Latvian professional football league called Virsliga. This is the story, my football story began a little bit earlier. Before this position, I was managing one of the most biggest clubs in Latvia called RFS. You might know this club by Conference League, UEFA Europe Conference League participation during the last season campaign. And before that, I started, let's say, on amateur level, just for fun, but which finally influenced my whole career. I developed the amateur team that I was managing for 6 years, and in parallel working in the banking area. So just to name the few, of course, during the 6 years within the Virsliga, I was also participating in multiple organizations, committees, and the boards. To name a few, Latvian Football Federation, UEFA Professional Strategic Committee, as well as the board of the European Leagues, the association that unites 40 leagues across the Europe. So I have, let's say, basic knowledge more or less in all countries in Europe, that in the leagues, what is happening in the professional football, in the leagues that are separated from the federations, because only these leagues could be a part of this association. So thank you for having me, and I'll pass the floor to Emmy to present himself.
Thank you, Maxim. And
Thanks,
Mr.
Max.
Emanuel Roshu of Romania.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm really happy to be here with you. Thanks for having me. I'm a less successful version of Igor. I've also been working as a journalist in my first years. I worked in the online media in Romania for 17 years now, almost. I worked for the most important sports publication in Romania, then moved to the sports number one to the leading sports TV station in the country, then switched a bit into project management and content management with the Romanian Football Association, and I started an OTT platform, FRH TV. Now I'm back in the media after 1.5 years, leading a project, online project, a website called PlaySport, as well as my passion for national football. I work with various medias around Europe, including The Guardian, also from abroad, from outside Europe. I did some contributions for the New York Times, magazines, all sorts of things like that. But of course, more than anything, I'm a massive football fan like you guys are as well. So that's what defines my journey, the passion for the game.
So quite a diverse set representation that we got here, which is nice for a conversation that we're about to have. So to kick it off, I mean, maximizing sponsorship revenues and so on and so forth, it sounds like, a very marketing thing. But I think that in order to touch on that, we should sort of go beyond that. And in a previous conversation, and a few during the last couple of days, some words like fan engagement challenges and all of that, you may hear that at almost any conference now. They already were spoken, but that's the thing. Obviously, I believe that even 10, 15 years ago, the conversation was more or less the same, that everything goes somewhere, we don't know where it goes, and the challenges, but now you can literally feel it. Like 5 minutes ago, we were discussing an AR guy in the interview room, so it's not something that, some engineers create somewhere in their hidden offices. It's already here. But for me, the biggest challenge, just to kick it off now, is the generational one, obviously. Because when we think about sports in general, and that obviously has a lot to do with the sponsorship themselves, is that those who were born after 2000, let's say in the 21st century, they're completely different, and the more the merrier. And the way I found it well described came from North America, from Boston, a company called Sports Innovations Lab. They sort of created the thing called Fluid Fan, which means that everyone who was before was supposed to be like more traditional, watching linear TV, supporting local clubs, favoring wins over values, rather than those who are younger. Now they not only support values more than the brands, but they also follow stars rather than brands themselves, and they want to be creative. And that brings extra challenges to those who are into sponsorship, no matter in which geography you are, because I believe that's also fair to say a challenge for you guys in Latvia and Romania, for me, wherever I am at this particular time of the moment. So I was curious to ask you, Maxim, let's start with you, like what's the current situation in Latvian football? How do you work on this particular matter, and in general, if you can give us an overview of what goes on in terms of sponsorship and beyond.
First of all, I would like to make a small comment about the context where we're operating. So just to give a few information for you. So Latvia is a small country with 1.8 million people, inhabitants, and we operate in a very complicated, let's say, sports industry situation where we have multiple leagues competing to each other, or sports in general, ice hockey, basketball, football, to name a few, but they are top 3 competitions. The sponsorship market itself is very, very small. Broadcasting market is very, very small. And in order to compete for the audience, for the fans, of course, the first step is what you mentioned, to understand your customer, to understand your audience. In order to do so in the digital era, you need to develop digital ecosystem in order to track all interactions with the fans, in order to understand the patterns and to develop the customer journey, to understand what they love and to bring this. So every organization, and when we speak about sponsorship in football, so we speak, it's a very general term, but we speak about several layers. There are clubs that are dealing with sponsors and marketing. There are leagues that unite all the clubs in a particular territory. There are federations, there are confederations. So if we concentrate on the league level, we try to combine and all information that we get from the clubs from the league products, which are the games that we produce, social media, any particular project like football, fantasy, score prediction games, where we can get the information about our audience, and then we need to digest that and to deliver what they want. So, being in a small market, we're making the first steps. So we can mention a bit, and I think in the previous talk there was a lot of good examples what big leagues are doing. La Liga, Premier League. I think especially La Liga is a good case in terms of sponsorship and marketing, where they have a 360 view of the clients, where they try to understand everything about their fans, not only what their preferences in football, but also to help their partners and sponsors to finally convert this attention to football into something, into buying the products or into the services. Because if we speak about sponsorship, it's everything about the conversion. So and the journey starts from awareness, then moving to engagement, then conversion and loyalty. So all the football organization needs to provide this journey, starting with awareness, and that's what we are doing in Virslīga. We try to increase the audience. That's why we broadcast our games for free, because it's important for us now to grow the audience. And we think about the engagement. So, for example, Fantasy League is something that people engage with. They spend the time on it, and they want to spend more and more time by watching, reading about Virslīga or any particular club or player. So it's very important to understand how you can convert. And I believe that we have a big and enormous job to do for the future, but currently developing a digital ecosystem is what we are doing right now. What does it mean? It means that by entering to the digital world of Virslīga with one registration, you can do everything in this digital system. You can watch the game, you can read, get the statistics, read the articles, you can engage with the authors and journalists on this platform, you can buy the ticket, you can buy merchandise, you can play Fantasy League, you can play score prediction. So by doing this, we try to understand what our fans prefer and how to deal with it. And then, of course, we can share this information with the sponsors, because sponsors are also not asking about the awareness and engagement. Yes, engagement is, as you said, during the last 5 years, fan engagement was by far the most popular word during any conference. And if you take 5 years more back, then was big data. So for 5 years, there was a big data. Everybody was trying to get the data as much as possible, but even sometimes not understanding what to do with it. Now, then, when they start thinking what we can do with this data, there are fan engagement appears. So how to use this data to provide to the fans what they want. I believe now, in terms of technology, of course, AI will be the next combination of words that will be very popular for the next 5 years, but we'll elaborate a little bit later on that.
True that. Emi, you bring a completely different perspective, I would say, to some extent, because Romanian league, let's call it, is a little bit more traditional in a way.
It's a bit more traditional, and it's a bit, let's say it's awkward. Let's not use bad words as I intended, as I first intended. Of course, the Romanian league is rather unique because, of course, football is the most popular sport in the country by far. The numbers you get when the national team plays or when the big teams play are huge in terms of TV ratings, of interest, of tickets sold. So football is absolutely, gets people buzzing, gets people crazy. Massive football matches and local football derbies are massive events. But at the same time, Romanian football is 34, 47 years behind anything, even though the society is moving forward, of course. Because people are very resistant to change. They don't like things new. Okay, they see abroad, but they say, no, we will never be able to do things like the Spanish are doing. Or even in Latvia, from what we spoke to prepare this chat of ours, you can see certain steps being made in the right direction. In Romania, it's a bit more difficult. And that's mainly because money comes very easy in Romanian football. So you have free sources of revenue. In the first league, you have the TV rights, which guarantee 30 million euros for the league to divide between clubs. So the league saves 10%, probably around 27 million goes to clubs. That's a lot of money. So clubs in the first year get from 60% to 80% of their budget thanks to the TV rights, because the budgets are not big, even for the teams from the lower positions. You get the betting companies and you get the Romanian state. So 3 sources of easy money. Around half of the teams in the first league are backed by the state, local communities in their cities or towns. And if you go lower, in the second tier, you get 80 to 85% of the teams being backed by local communities. And in the third, it's probably around 100%, because you rarely see an academy or a private project developed down there, because nobody puts the money into a failing project. So getting easy money doesn't motivate people to work, to put their mind, to put their brains into action, to start something concrete, to have the courage to fail, to have the courage to try something different, because this 30 million per year contract for the TV rights is long term. It's like maybe in our 8th or 9th year since we have it, and it's probably going to go forward like this. So with money coming very easily, you don't get to work for the money. You just have to think how to spend it. And this is the challenge moving into the media side of things. In sports media, of course, you get the sources you have in football, but of course you don't have the TV rights, but you have the betting clients. And since the expansion of betting, so in the past 5 to 7 years, that killed the competition. So brands which had an interest in promoting themselves through sports media couldn't compete with betting and lost all interest. So beer brands, hygiene products, stuff like that, shampoos, Cristiano Ronaldo's clear campaigns, non-existent at this point. Romanian football media is also very canonical. They don't innovate. They just, this guy did some podcasts, we'll all do podcasts. These guys turned their brand red. Let's do it pink, or let's do a variable of red. The space to innovate and the willingness to innovate is not there anymore, sadly, because it's easy. It's easy to get the money, but at the same time, as you mentioned, the structure of the public changed a lot. So we see numbers in traffic. The demographics show that basically people under 25 are inexistent on the sports canonical media websites. But nobody does the right steps to get younger audiences, and they don't address them the way you should address a younger public. They just try, you like the Romanian players, let's try promoting with young players. They don't do things that should address the public. They don't do they don't choose the right approach for the right set of football fans, or the future readers, clients, call it how you want.
What's good about Romanian football then? After such a take, I should ask that.
What's good?
What's good?
Well, the passion is still there. So this, I think, you can use that and you can build on that. It's like the country went theoretically out of communism in 1989, even though it continued, and it still continues in a different form, yeah? But after that, the businesses boomed. Everybody got rich. It was a virgin land, and everybody who had a business brain could develop a business of his own, and he could win good money. Now in football in Romania, it's like this, because nobody tried anything, So you have the space to try, and you have the space to do something, but you need to find the right path to get people involved. Because they just tried the mass things. I think now the mass processes, the mass, the way, classical ways of advertising for a large mass of people are not the right approach, because the public is the same. You don't get new clients. So to get new clients, you need new means to get to them. You need to go to smaller communities to build. When you start a new website or a new project, you need to address what makes smaller communities vibe. You cannot send the same message to 10 million people who you say are interested in football, because some of them have one interest, all of them already have consumption paths they follow for a few years, yeah? So when you come with something new and want to do the same things others did before you, you're destined for failure, in my opinion.
Maxim, getting back to Latvia, just to extend it on your sponsorship portfolio, I understand that smaller markets allows you to control things better and see them clearly, rather than on a bigger market you have way more unpredictable things going on. And I went to your website today and I've noticed there are like 12 partners mentioned. So if we go through your experience at the league, when you started back in the days, how many did you have and how did you raise the portfolio?
Well, when we started in 2017, there were mainly 2 partners and 2 revenue sources, apart from a small portion that coming from National Association, Latvian National Association. So primarily, we exploit the situation on the market and provide for the betting companies that officially cannot be advertised on the market. We provide them the opportunity of acquiring naming and branding rights. What does it mean? So we create a partnership with a betting company, so they take the name, for example, today it's OptiBet Virsliga, so it's officially, it's like somewhere in the middle, in the gray area, so the betting advertising is prohibited, but this one you will be able, because it's a different type of the rights, it's naming rights. And the same with the branding rights, so we develop all the templates in our communication with the colors and fonts that are associated with the brand. So we exploit this, let's say, opportunity. As a small market, I say, we cannot do anything to grow this market. There is no just the interest because the audience is small. We speak about around 15,000 people actively following Virsliga, watching the games, going to the stadiums, playing fantasy and so on. So, but what we can do, and you also mentioned it, by being small, we are less bureaucratic, and we are much faster. We can implement some things, technological things, in the area of Web3 or blockchain or other things that doesn't require, and let's say the failure cost is not so high, right? So we can test these ideas and things. And also creative approach is the thing that helps us. For example, if we cannot change the market, but we can expand this market. So why, for the last year, I've been promoting a creation of the cross-border competition in the Baltic states. So now a minute of the geography. So we have 3 small countries in the Baltics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, very tied economically, socially, culturally, the same level of, say, living standards, the same level of football. So we are considering now and speaking with UEFA and also 3 federations to create a cross-border competition that will unite 3 countries, create a 6 million market that is similar to Denmark and Finland. And if you see in Denmark, the domestic TV deal, which is the main fuel for the club development and the league development and the federation's development, is a domestic TV deal. For example, in Denmark, there is a 53 million euros is a domestic TV deal. In Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania combined is 0. So, of course, mentioning all these factors that influence in Denmark, there's a standard of living, infrastructure, passion for football, we will not be able to reach these commercial opportunities, right? But even if we can reach 5%, 10% of this potential, which is enough and which is possible, so it will be already enough to make the first step to increasing appeal for the sponsors, for investing in technology, developing this digital ecosystem, and making steps forward. And I always say to my clubs that it is not the problem. We can play with the same level for a very long time. And we have, we have very wealthy owners multi-millionaire, billionaire, that they're having clubs in Latvia and they just enjoy it. There is no return on revenue, there is return on emotions, let's say. So these clubs are financed primarily by equity or debt, and the small portion comes from the sponsorship or match day revenues. Our goal as a Virslīga to create these opportunities, but before we need to build a platform. And I believe technological development and cross-border competition will be this trigger that can change the situation.
What structure could govern such a league, for example?
Well, the governance in this kind of projects, governance is always the biggest challenge. How to organize it, but I think my approach is always to take an independent researcher that can develop the structure, how it could be managed. So it's a very big topic that we can discuss for many
That's
many
an
hours,
interesting one. Eh?
Yeah, but the interesting one in terms of the. And this also is important to have economies of scale. So now we are managing all 3 leagues and managing them completely different. So for example, in Virslīga, we have 6 revenue sources because we commercialized all the data rights. We commercialized all IP rights that we have. For example, in Estonia and Lithuania, it's not the case. Only by combining and creating a common project. So we speak about 450 games. And putting this in one platform, we can commercialize that. We can become more interesting for the broadcasting companies or the sponsorship markets because we are not like a 15,000, we are already 60,000 or 50,000. And for example, there is a company, Air Baltic company, which operates in all 3 countries, airline company. Today, by approaching to them, we are not interested to them. But with the 60,000 people, this is what it creates. So how you can manage this? By creating a one. And with the digital era, it's no problem to creating a platform where you can communicate with the 3 leagues to coordinate. Primarily, it's about the procedures and people, right? So, but you put everything in the statutes of this new organization. You can also keep these 3 organizations because this kind of project, it allows to have different governance structure. So currently, we haven't been speaking about particular governance structure. We're speaking about the sporting opportunities. So more competitive games, less dead games, better environment for players' development, coaches' development, referees' development. All these things are important. Then we speak about commercial opportunities by putting all the games in one platform, and that's what was mentioned during the previous panel discussion. So now in the digital era, we have these opportunities, even for a smaller league, to have these kind of platform, OTT platforms and broadcast with a small subscription base. So today it's 0, but of course we can put like several euros to watch all the Baltic football per month. But for example, if we speak about the practical example, for example, we spoke with La Liga. So what the Semra also, she told during the previous panel discussion, how they are, what the strategy they have. La Liga, to compete with Premier League, they go to the markets itself through the delegates and establishing the offices in the region. So they come to the league, for example, what they did to us, they come to our league, they say, we want to grow with you together. Because in Latvia, Virslīga is number 6 league in terms of viewers amount. La Liga is 5th. On top of that, there is a Premier League, Champions League, Serie A, Bundesliga, La Liga, and then Virslīga. So we say, let's create a partnership and let's move together to the top 3. So by this cooperation, for example, La Liga can provide our league with a digital platform like OTT to broadcast all the Baltic League football in one platform. At the same time, they can commercially increase their commercial opportunities by not selling, for example, to Setanta channel in the Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, but being together with us, where we aggregate all the Baltic football fans in one point, they can commercialize their production there, their broadcasting there. So this kind of, what I'm saying, creative thinking, so combining, cooperating with the bigger partners, we can compete with medium leagues. The problem is that these kind of leagues like Slovakia, Slovenia, they have domestic TV deals. They have a big sponsorship opportunities, multi-million also with the betting companies or production companies. So it's very difficult to compete with that. We are in a very competitive market we operate in this market. Yeah.
Let me challenge you a bit, just because this Baltic League project, it's actually also about, maximizing sponsorship revenues, but in a very unconventional way, I would say, because I believe that, well, it's only the Super League itself that challenges the traditional way of things they are now, but you're in the same, I would say, attitude to some extent. But when it comes to, imagine it happens, I believe there are certain triggers that, bring you people's attention. It's rivalries, like the traditional ones, and we were talking with Jonathan the other day that African football is based on that. You have huge rivalries, and they're the driver. You have stars, like big names that are playing in the league, and you have successes. And even if you create a Baltic League, all three are still going to be the challenge. I believe some rivalries, well, they are maybe there, but they're not like live now, as they were probably in the Soviet times or before, I don't know. But with the stars and with the successes, it's only success within that league, because Latvian national team, if I remember it right, is, well, neither Estonia or Lithuania. They're not that successful at the European level yet. Hopefully they will. Yeah. So how do you deal with that?
So let's be completely honest. We will never have a stars, and this is not our goal to have a first-tier or second-tier players playing in the Baltic or Virslīga. We have our own strategy. We are the youngest league in Europe in terms of the average age. This is our goal. Our goal to be the first platform for second, third tier players to start their career in professional football. So we have foreign players rules that allow us to bring a lot of talented guys and to compete with the local young guys to make these first steps. And then to bring these players to the next stage. It could be like last year, the guy went from Virslīga to Serie A, to Spezia. They relegated, but still he started like, it's transition from 33rd league to the third league. So 30 leagues, it's enormous jump. But of course, our goal is to bring the players to Ekstraklasse, to Norway, to Sweden, so where they can prove themselves, like another Serbian guy did this year, in 2023, the last season, because now we are in the mid-season, in the preseason. So he played in Virslīga. He was sold to Vålerenga in Norway. He played there 7 games, 11 goals, and they also relegated. So I think that he will be acquired by top 10 leagues clubs. So this is what we provide to this place. We don't want to have the players older than 25, because if you are not successful in Virslīga at the age of 24, 25, it's better to requalify, to go to the university and have still the opportunity in your life to become successful. Because time is the only resource that you cannot recover. So in terms of the rivalries could be naturally created or artificially. So artificially is just what I say to the clubs during our meetings. I said, I want you to cooperate in this room, but I want you to hate each other outside this room. So that's what I see. And in 2015, 2 Riga teams from Riga, from the capital, appeared in Virslīga just less than 10 years ago. This is by far the most fierce rivalry and the most popular rivalry, I would say, even in the region. 10 years ago, it just doesn't exist. So, but because they have very high ambitions, they were all the time competing. There are like a lot of red cards during this game. So it's like both, artificially and naturally happening. Within the Baltic League, it could be the same. The rivalries, Flora, Žalgiris against Riga, RFS, this is a big teams. And it's also a new layer, national layer. So it's like, our teams are better, like Estonian teams, the Flora will beat you. So, and it also promotes regional tourism as well. So now there is a Rail Baltica, a project which connects Tallinn to Berlin with the railroad. So it's also this kind of things, infrastructural things promote this kind of things that the fans could travel easily between 3 countries or even far if we speak in the next stages that Finland could be the part of this project because the level of football in Finland is also quite similar to ours. So there are multiple opportunities for the commercial opportunities in terms of sporting merits. And but as Emi said, this governance thing is one of the biggest challenge.
I wish you good luck with that. It really sounds exciting because we've been talking about that with Maxim throughout the last couple of years, I would say. Yeah. And I'm waiting for that to happen. That's going to be interesting. Emi, I wanted to touch with you upon a thing that I've mentioned at the very beginning, the values. let's switch from the geographical agenda to another, like a mental one, I would say. You're big on social media. You work on the stadiums with the clubs, with the players, and I said that the people are changing. The way they perceive football is changing. The other day we had this discussion about sponsorship itself, and I asked guys like, do you remember who is a T-shirt sponsor of Manchester United now? Whether it's a TeamViewer or Chevrolet, and that's impossible. Okay, if you watch the games, you may remember that, but everyone knows that back in the days it was suddenly Sharp or
Opel and Bayern Munich.
or Opel Bayern Munich or GVC at Arsenal. That's sort of the thing that back in the days was the most valuable. Rather than now, I believe everyone is looking for different approaches to that because the visibility itself, the awareness itself, it is important, but it's not enough anymore. So how do you think that evolves? What sort of values, what sort of conversation is now in this place? And do really people start to perceive football differently and all the things associated with it as well? That's an open call for you, Maxim, as well. I just want us to sort of fantasy about that.
Of course, football is consumed differently than it was 10, 12, 20, 15 years ago. We're talking about different generations. And even though I don't encourage the project of the Super League, it's not something I really like. But some of the points they made there were absolutely valid, Now you get to see people on the stadiums, all of them filming all the time, with the phones in their hands or watching the phone constantly, checking the results or checking social apps. So we are talking about a challenge nobody predicted a few years back. So the values. You mean the values? Elaborate a bit on the values concept.
No, I mean the values. That it's not enough just to, let's say I'm a Steaua fan, like you are. And you are a Steaua fan just because you were Steaua fan all your life long. You grew up with that. Rather than if you want to consider, let's say, a 14-year-old kid to become a Steaua fan now, I believe it's not enough that you as his father or me as his brother are Steaua fans. So that has to be something extra, and that's values.
Yeah, Romanian football has no values. I mentioned before that it's a different market, and it absolutely is, because nothing makes sense. Nothing you see, I'm supporting this club because, look, they do something nice. They have a player who's attached to the club for 15 years. They have a good owner who does good things. They have a good politics. They've had good politics for social for being part of the community. So it's a different market. So if I would apply this to the Romanian, the values to the Romanian league, I would say you only get to support a team only if they're successful, or the star factor, because we also have a few stars. But now, because the league is not visible enough, we are not competing in Europe. We are not part of the European competitions. We are not part of the group stage. We get kicked out in the summer, so we don't even get to see the autumn matches in the groups. We create artificial, not like La Liga, artificial player talks. We create artificial stars so that we hang to something. So these are the only triggers, and of course the father, uncle supports probably. But it's not a matter of values in Romania, not anymore. It used to be, because of course you used to have a team fighting the system. Of course, in the communist regime, you would say, look, these guys are against the system. They are constantly being stolen by the referees. They are being sabotaged by the system. Maybe that rhetoric worked, but it's a matter of the way Romanian football supporters consume football has always been different. There's no match day experience, for example, not even now. So the clubs sell themselves because people are just football mad. The national team fills stadium just because it's the national team. The FA doesn't need to do anything to sell the tickets. They just post an announcement and they finally end up selling out just because people love the national team. If you ask them why do they love the national team, they will say, yeah, it's Romania. In 3 months or when they play again, even though they had bad results, the Romanians have this big quality that they forget easily. So if they lose, they still say, oh, we might have a chance next match, so let's go. Maybe it's not going to be full, but it's still going to be 30,000, 45,000 attending the match, you know? So I wouldn't put Romania into any comparison with another country. I've been recently to Belgrade, for example, and I saw how people there, Red Star Stadium, close to Partizan, probably less than a kilometer apart, they went to the cafe of Dika Stojanovic, who was their goalkeeper in the Champions League final. The people still going there in the mornings to drink coffee, hoping a former big player came to drink coffee with them, like 50, 100 people. Around the stadium, there are people who live through that club, through the message it sends to the rivalry with Partizan. In Romania, you don't get that anymore. People just don't care about anything else other than, okay, we love football, so we need to have a team. We'll probably choose those guys, but with no strong core reason for that. You know?
I can elaborate on that. Just I will tell you my thoughts about it. We live in the era where digital and media plays a big role in our lives. And you mentioned the Super League. The Super League came up with, particularly Florentino Perez, with the research saying that there is a big threat to football. So this is the era where we bring some researches, questionnaires that shows that the fans don't want to watch football anymore. There is a change in habits. Yes, they are. But this is a natural process of any part of the life or any part of the product. There is a changing habits of the consumers. It's all right. So to my mind, then FIFA also publishes another research saying that yes, we need to change, we need to expand the number of teams, we need to change the distribution. Yes, but it's okay. There is no threat. First of all, when I've heard that there is a new values for the new fans, we need to grow. Yes, in the capitalistic world, if you don't grow, you're having a problem. You need to grow. That's why we're speaking about the new fans generation and so on. But for example, I'm the, let's say, core fan of football. I'm 35 now, and I believe that the next 30 years I will watch football. For the business, 30 years cycle, it's a big cycle. So why you don't concentrate on what I love? In football, and my purchasing power is much bigger than the younger generation that are not earning money, they're spending their parents' money, right, on all this subscriptions. So I want to say to the clubs, to the organization, football organization, concentrate both on the core, just to keep this hard fans that were watching the football previously, and they will still watch it, and of course concentrate on the younger generation. But in terms of the sponsorship, if you talk about the league, club, federation, you need to concentrate on three things. Three things particular. The first one is technology and innovation. So this is what we see within La Liga, Bundesliga. They are very technological. They try to improve the product. And the second thing, what I want to mention, the second part is product and content. So when you have the technology, you can enrich your product and your content with the statistical data, with the explanation of the game, bringing new ideas, or you can take NFL experience with Nickelodeon where they show the explaining the kids the rules in a different manner. So this is what I say. Technology allows you also to improve your product. In general, football product, I say, we produce Virslīga now with the 4 cameras. La Liga is producing with the 30, there are the different stages of the production, but top games are produced more than 35 cameras. 95% of the all broadcasting are produced from 2 cameras, whether it's Virslīga, Champions League, or from 90 to 95% from 2 central cameras. This 5 to 10% makes the difference. we as Virslīga, we will never be able to invest in this content and the product to compete with the Premier League. So we don't need to do that. We need to concentrate on some innovative technological things that can give us this sponsorship opportunities by developing a digital ecosystem, by understanding the fans, trying to convert the local fans for the subscription, for going to the stadium, for buying merchandise, or buying the services or products of our partners. So the third area is distribution. So how you distribute your product. And this is the problem that a lot of big leagues are facing right now. La Liga has and in the previous talk that was also mentioned, they have both systems. They have their own OTT developed that they invested a lot. In La Liga, there is La Liga Tech company with 120 employees. Now they sold also partly to Argentinian company to even develop this organization. So they developed internally the whole digital system together with OTT. So they distribute now, 35% is distributed through the OTT digitally and 65% still in a linear way for paid TV. What they predict by 2030, the majority, around 80% of the games will be distributed through the OTT digitally. We see now Bundesliga is making a deal with a private equity fund to get 1 billion euros for what? To improve the distribution, because they have innovative product, they have interesting product, but they want to globalize. They want to start be appealing for the wider audience, for the wider sponsorship opportunities. Serie A, very big challenges to sell domestic TV deal. One of the comments from Luigi Di Servi, the CEO of the company, was, we are considering developing OTT going through the digital, because they see they reached probably the potential, the maximum potential within the linear television. Only Premier League is still with the new deal. Of course, there was a loud article named that this the biggest deal ever. Yes, it's the biggest deal ever, but annually it's only 4% increase. They just increased the number of years from 3 in the cycle to 4. So that's how they sold 6.7 billion pounds this year. But it's a marginal gain of 4%. So they're also starting considering how to distribute the product. When you combine these three things, technology, innovation, content, and the product, and distribution, you can create something valuable for everybody. For the fans, that means for the sponsors, and you have enormous marketing opportunities. And just to finalize these three areas, I would like to make an example of which I think, to my mind, is mind-blowing. It's NFL Black Friday game that happened last year when Amazon paid 100 million to NFL for one game, to broadcast one game on Friday. So you can imagine, Amazon pays 30+ million for 20 Premier League games in the season, and they paid 100 million. Why? Because there is product, there is distribution, and there is innovation. If you know that there is an act, Sports Broadcasting Act in the United States, that it prohibits you to broadcast NFL games on Fridays. So this is the day for college football. So up till after 6 p.m., you cannot broadcast. So NFL never broadcasted the games on Friday. So what Amazon did, and I think it's fantastic, they bought the game on Black Friday. They put the game on Black Friday day till 3 p.m. They broadcasted at 3 p.m. just not to break this Sports Broadcasting Act. And usually people in America on Black Friday day, they go to the shopping malls and they buy with the discounts the products. So Amazon did, they broadcasted the game in their digital platform, and they allowed you not going away to purchase everything that you need during the broadcast. So they know through their research, through their searches of their customers, they could simultaneously bring to different customer segments different advertising, different ads, because they know what you search. That's what we're telling. Know your customer. And simultaneously, it's called a shoppable experience, that you're not leaving the broadcasting or not leaving your house, you can acquire. So, of course, currently we don't have the data how much they earned from this game by paying 100. What is the return on this? It will be interesting if they will do once again during the next year. Probably it worked, and this is a model. But that's the opportunity. They see 100 million for one game because you have everything in one place. And I believe this is what the other Premier League and all other football leagues will go. This digitalization, changing consumer habits, yes, but then you can provide a unique content and unique experience for this new generation.
That's what I call the values, the values of Amazon. Just to remind all of us that every time we hear some cool example coming from the US and think that it's somewhere, you know, at the other side of the ocean, in fact, it's not. And all of us working on behalf of the clubs or leagues or federations, we're in the same competition. And, you know, Amazon and this thing is accessible from our smartphones the same way as it does from Denver, New York.
And we will see them coming to this market, the fantastic deal with MLS and Apple.
Exactly.
So it's a 10 years deal with we will see that these companies will go because at the same Apple, the sales of iPhone is also stagnating. So where they can grow currently unlimited way, is a subscription and a content base. And through content, they can advertise, they can commercialize it. So.
Okay, when we have the next panel on the next Winter League, we'll talk about that. Time is up, says the red TV in front of us. I believe we have some minutes for the questions, if you have any. If you don't, we save some time for you and for ourselves. There is a question. Yeah. Good. No time saved. The microphone
Is
has
there
to
microphone?
Microphone. It's coming. On its way. Almost there. The last 5 meters. And there you go.
Oh, hello guys. Thank you again. Yes, after listening to you, I have a question. That Emmanuel mentioned that Romanian football. How did you say that word? In very hard situation, I would say. Yes.
Awkward.
Awkward. Yes. You know, I think this curse is related to most of the Eastern European leagues, because all those problems that you mentioned in my country we had the same. And
Where are you from?
Ukraine. Oh. Yeah. I told you that 2 days ago when we were in. Yeah. But anyway, what I wanted to ask you guys, I think you will agree with this thesis that our leagues from Eastern Europe, they are not 30, 40 years, but 10 years at least far from, I would say, Central European leagues and even North American League, I mean MLS. And I've been thinking, you mentioned about Super League and again MLS. Is it possible to use this model that is used in MLS, like private entity as private company that rules all the league, and to get into this league you have to follow some requirements to invest money and etc. etc. How do you think if for experiment any, I don't know, even in Latvia you'll try to do that project, like to make a private league not connected to government, not connected to state, just private league ruled by businessmen of Latvia or whatever, I don't know, from any other country. How do you think, will it be a project that will survive, or it's not applicable in reality of Europe and especially of Eastern Europe? Thank you.
You want to, so you want to know if a league between league composed by the from our countries in Eastern Europe would work?
No, not necessarily. The idea is to make a what's called a single entity league, or sort of American way of league. But
from multiple countries, or just
No. Sorry, maybe my question.
Choose the countries, please.
Yeah. For instance, in Romania, now you have this situation that the league is ruled by government. Yes.
No, the league is ruled. There is a professional league.
Yes, sure, but the headquarters were
Funded. The league is funded heavily by.
No, the league is private, but the clubs in themselves are, most of them, half of them, let's say, from the first league are backed by the state, one way or another.
Yes, exactly. Yeah? And I'm saying, if imagine creating the league private, all ruled by businessmen, private entities, and any team won't be related to government or state, just private league. And I'm asking, in the reality of even Romania, will it be possible for this league to survive for a long term?
Yeah,
Or
that's the ideal scenario. There's a big debate now between private clubs, because we also have private clubs, of course, and they are rather unhappy. They say we cannot fight the state because of the many problems we had. We had the smaller, not that bigger oligarchs in charge of the clubs, starting with the 90s until 15 years ago. Most of them, I would say probably every club owner in their top flight, so if we take the teams from 20 years ago, all of them had problems with the law. So 90% of them even went to jail. Some of them went to trial and were probably pardoned, but 90% of them went to jail. All of a sudden, they lost interest in football, of course. And for a few years, for 5 years, for 7 years, we had a void of money and private investment in football, of course. And that's when the state came to bring back some brands to life. So 20 years ago, less teams, probably 3 or 4 in the top flight. We had, let's say we had 18, but let's move to 16 as we have now. So 25% of the teams were owned by the state, and the league was stronger. They had better results in Europe, but at the same time, it turned out that the guys who were in charge of the clubs were not running them legally. So I wouldn't know how to answer because it's
just imagine
a matter of
what do you think?
prediction. Of course, if I were to predict, I think now, as things stand, it's impossible to see the Romanian league working only on private investment, because there aren't enough people ready to risk their fortunes to invest in a product that's doomed, in my opinion. So if I was a businessman who started something and created a product and followed some rules, I would never put money in the Romanian league.
Just to elaborate on that, first of all, there is no any problem of government to be as an investor or partner of the league, of the club, or anything. The most important is to define how these investments are done. You can take the example of Iceland, where 3.5% of the government budget goes to the sports and recreation. So when the government acknowledged that among young generation there is the problem with alcohol and drug addiction, they decided to invest in sports, and particularly in football, to solve this issue, and they did it. And as a result, they also went to the Euros in 2016, then World Cup in 2018. So, for example, if you take Latvia, the investment from the government budget is only 0.5%. So an EU average is 0.8. So we are lagging even behind the average. So I think the best combination, especially for a smaller country, is a combination of the private investment and the government investment. If the government invests in the youth development, infrastructure development,
Yeah,
MLS
agreed.
the same.
There's no problem.
There is
Yeah.
no problem. And the MLS the same. The stadiums, the majority of stadiums built by the municipality or the cities. So this is the best combination. Of course, if the government funds the player transfers, the salaries of the players, and inflating these things, this is a bad situation, because then you put the pressure on the private business to put even more money into things that don't generate value, because higher salaries of the players, of course, there should be a normal salary, a competitive salary, but on top of that, what we see, it's a just incredible inflation of the salaries, transfers, agent fees, and so on. So the best combination to answer it is. But the problem in our countries, the biggest problem in football in general is the governance. That's how you govern the football. So how you develop the programs, what are the procedures are there. This is the biggest problem.
I would suggest, just in addition to that, I believe we run out of time completely, yeah? You may check an example of the Indian Super League, because that's exactly what they did a couple of years ago, and the Indian football is a thing of itself. I've been to a couple of matches there, and it's just incomparable to what we're used to see in Europe. And that's exactly the case, because they wanted to separate from the pyramid, the traditional one, and not that they really succeeded. It was and still is a great benchmark, but not more than that, from my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for everyone who participated, to technicians, to interpreters whose job was really high, especially at our panel. See you one day somewhere else. Maxim, Emi,
Thank
pleasure.
you.
Hugs.
Thanks a lot for Igor Kretsan, Maxim Skurivenic, and Emmanuel Roche for sharing their information with us. We are going to be all together in 10 minutes for the panel from scouting to negotiations, the art of closing successful transfer in 10 minutes. Thank you.